quick hot lap of Barber Motorsports Park. So we're on the front straight now, heading towards this long, fast, sweeping, blind left-hand corner, which is turn 1. So you trail brake all the way to the apex, hit the curb on the left, and get ready for turn 2, which is a very, very long, medium-speed right-hand corner. Make sure you don't carry too much speed into this corner, otherwise you'll find yourself out wide. You're going to lose plenty of positions and plenty of tire as well. So we're getting ready for the hairpin now, which is one of the more difficult corners on the track. So brake at about the 2 board, give it plenty of steering lock, and get on the power as soon as possible using all that rearward weight distribution that the mid-engine layout has to offer. So now we're heading down the short straight, getting ready for this fast right, left, right chicane. So carry lots of speed, throw the car in, smash the first 2 curbs, avoid the third, and make sure that you get on the power as nice and early as possible using the banking to get the corner over with as fast as possible. Lift a little bit for this left-right flick. Remember to smash both curbs to help the car get turned in. And now we're getting ready for an even more difficult left-right flick. So get on the brakes, trail brake to keep the weight on the front all the way through this, and get on the power once again as early as possible using the camber between the curb and the road to the fullest. Now we're heading through the most difficult corner on the track, so trail brake all the way to the apex, and then once again get on the power very, very smoothly. Aim for an early apex in this final corner, get on the power as early as you can, and you are across the line. And that is a lap of Barber Motorsports Park.
Good evening, race fans, and welcome to Podium Esports coverage of the 3rd round for Series 5 of the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series from Barber Motorsports Park, just outside of Birmingham, Alabama. James Pike here, the voice of Podium Esports, alongside Taylor Burris and our producer, Ryan Bauer. We welcome you this evening, whether or not you're watching on YouTube or Facebook or Twitch or wherever you may be, for another Friday night of PCA Sim Racing. And you just saw the intro video to this track. You got a lap with the Series 4 Pro Class champion Michael Polisek out of the northern New Jersey region of the PCA. And I think that video made 2 things very obvious, TB. 1, the fast drivers are going to hit a lot of curbs here. And 2, elevation changes, elevation changes, elevation changes. They are all over this racetrack.
They don't call it the Alabama roller coaster like any other track here. This track will provide a test of skills and ability for each of these classes that will be competing here tonight at Barber Motorsports Park. A lot's going to be going on. A lot of different strategies will be played out, and we will see who can survive this course. It's going to be proving a challenge even for our challenge drivers that are about to take the course here tonight.
Plenty of challengers in this challenge class presented by Haggerty, and it will be Ian Simon and Ken Tubman who come into tonight leading the points. Those 2 have won the first 2 races of the season, but it's Matt Dialosa who has the fast time in qualifying at the moment, and Dialosa, incidentally, sits 4th in the challenge class points standings coming into tonight. I would argue that Dialosa's probably had the most pace out of anyone who hasn't won a race yet. So, TV, is this where he gets his Alabama getaway and gets victory number 1 of Series 5?
Well, if he's able to have a clean start, keep the car out in front, and make no mistakes, I'm pretty sure he'll be singing Sweet Home Alabama here if he takes the checkered flag once again.
We'll keep an eye on him as we get set to bring you the starting grid for tonight's first race of the evening, which of course comes to you from the challenge class presented by Haggerty. Haggerty, let's drive together. Matt Dialosa with a qualifying time of 1 minute 29.935 seconds rolls off P1. P2 is Ian Simon. Chris Siborowski will begin tonight from the 3rd spot. 4th will be Daniel Rubel. John Crook rolls off from P5 tonight. P6 is Ken Tubman. Trip Starkey with a season's best qualifying effort. He'll start 7th. 8th will be Justin Moreno. Ed Eisenring begins tonight from the 9th position. 10th belongs to the 42 of Ken Nielsen.
Starting in 11th will be Aaron Ambrosino, followed by Andrew Hillman in 12th. Scott McSherry will be starting in the 13th position, followed by Brian Himmelman in 14th. Scott Rogers will be starting from the 15th position, followed by Jim Hemmick in 16th. J.R. Gregory will be starting from 17th with David Purdy in 18th. 19th will be Robert Rose, and Tim Frick will round out your top 20.
21st will be Alan Kirby. Mark Granoff begins tonight from the 22nd. 23rd is Robin Benson, and Olin Murphy begins from the 24th position. 25th is where you'll find Anchor Birdsong. Abraham Jones begins tonight from 26th. 27th is where John Bradley will roll off from. He's joined on the outside of row 14 by Adam Fox, Jason Sherwood, Michael Burgoyne, and Jose Rivas. The final 3 cars for this first grid of the evening. This the PCA Challenge class presented to us by our friends at Hagerty. Since 1984, Hagerty has been the worldwide leader in collector car insurance, and everything they do is geared toward enabling and enhancing the experience of automotive enthusiasts, making sure that the vehicles we all love and the lifestyles that revolve around them don't just survive, but thrive well into the future. Services include the Hagerty Drivers Club, Drive Share by Hagerty, the shop, and much, much more to fuel car culture. Hagerty, let's drive together. We'll take a look quickly at the track facts before we go green flag racing for the first time tonight. This is Barber Motorsports Park. Technically, we are in Leeds, Alabama, just up the interstate from Birmingham, Alabama. We're not terribly far away from one of the largest cities in Alabama, and plenty of fun to be had here throughout the years. This track we're running on is the full course that we will be tackling this evening, the longer of the 2 variants available to drivers in iRacing. It's a 2.38 mile, 3.83 kilometer circuit with 10 turns. We yet again race at sunrise in Sim. It's May 15th, 2020, the default day for iRacing. It is just after 7 a.m. local time in Sim. Temps in Sim are going to be standard across the evening. 70 degrees Fahrenheit air temp, 71 degrees Fahrenheit track temp. Both of those should come up ever so slightly as the day progresses. 80% humidity, winds headed to the east at 10 miles an hour. Taylor Burris, final thoughts before we go green.
It's going to be interesting to see on this start how well these drivers are able to manage their cars going into turn 1. It's downhill. It's a 90, almost pretty much a hard left turn into the corner before getting into a hairpin. So they have to be mindful of that, as well as those elevation changes. So it's going to be exciting. I can't wait to get started tonight.
Can Matt Dialosa shake the monkey off his back? Can Ian Simon or Ken Tubman go back to victory lane? We'll find out as we are underway with the 3rd night of action in Series 5 for the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series. Dialosa got a very good jump, as did Ian Simon. Those 2 clear by maybe 2 or 3 car lengths already. First proper battle, Daniel Rubel, Ken Tubman, and Justin Moreno, who nearly got into Tubman and had to check up as they come around that big bend, turn 2 for the first time.
Yeah, they're now going down the small straight before they get into the hairpin right here. It's going to be a tight corner. They have to make sure they hit both apexes. So they'll hit that curbing right there before tracking out just a little bit and then try to clip the next apex to get that needed run down one of the longest straightaways here before they head to the turn 7 A, B, and C section of the course.
And technically speaking, that is a turn and a little kink that you see coming onto that short straightaway before they come down the hill, and it's 1, 2, 3 curves that you bounce through and then sweep out using the banking to find your way down what effectively constitutes the back straightaway at Barber. The 2 kinks that you have to worry about that Michael Podolsek told us about in that video before we got on air, where you really do have to attack these curves in order to get the best lap times out of these cars.
You certainly have to, but you got to be careful with how these off-camber corners can be as well, especially the back half of the course when you're coming up down that back straightaway. It's very easy for the car to get light when you're trying to make corner exit, so you have to be mindful of your throttle input and steering input in order to get the best possible momentum to carry you out of those corners.
Riding along with Anchor Bergson, who currently runs in the 25th position in this race. Bergson out of the Northeast region, which covers the greater Boston area, and looking for a little bit better run than he's had the last few weeks, but it looks like there's decent pace in that number 248 machine, and I think most importantly, space to settle into a groove and a rhythm.
Yes, indeed. Sitting in P20, has pretty much no pressure at all from behind him, about 1.6 seconds back from his next competitor, which would be Robert Rose. And then about another few seconds up the road, he'll have Robert Benson in the 71. So he can easily just log laps and make his way up through the field tonight.
You take a look now at Justin Moreno, who's one of the Team Haggerty drivers. Haggerty, the presenting partner of this challenge class, and they've got a few names that you'll want to keep track of, as John Crook just about got into the back of Moreno, who I think was checking out to make sure he didn't get into the back of last week's winner, Ken Tubman. So a bit of an accordion effect there coming out of turn 8, and that slowed up Crook. He lost about 3 or 4 car lengths as they worked their way through the double set of kinks on the back straight here.
That section, of course, will be very easy to have an accordion effect where a lot of drivers can easily get bunched up together before they finally can let up loose on the throttle. You'll possibly see some incidents happening there in that section of the course very early on in tonight's race and throughout all the other classes that we'll have here later tonight.
Jim Hemming and Adam Fox now up on your screens. Adam Fox trying to hold off Abraham Jones in the 996. That's one of your better battles, actually, on the racetrack. It's the closest battle on track at this moment as they get their way through the kinks and through this big, wide, sweeping section that leads you to the end of the lap. The 12, 13, 14 complex where you go over and down and up and through and sideways. It feels like you're riding a wooden roller coaster when you clear all these bits and pieces of the track before you get back to a relatively tame start-finish line.
Yes, you do out there. Now coming out of the final corner. Even that final corner can be a little bit hair-raising for the average driver. That corner can be a little bit loose off corner exit if you're not careful on getting on the throttles quick enough. And it's very difficult to try to control these race cars once you're losing control of it. So you have to be mindful of all your inputs here.
And take a look at Daniel Rubel, who sits in P4 at this time. Rubel having a solid run in the first few minutes of tonight's race. He out of the Total region, which covers the greater Philadelphia area, and about maybe 2.5 seconds back of Soborowski, so plenty of space for him to operate. He's got a good jump on Ken Tubman, though. Tubman sort of backing up this group with John Crook beginning to charge on Justin Moreno as you ride on board with Ed Eisenring.
Yeah, Ed Eisenring is another one of those drivers who's been very consistent, but just hadn't had the best run put together. Eisenring currently sits 9th in the points, so he's definitely shown the speed that he has to be able to take the fight to get into the top 10 in points, but he has to make sure he gets a little bit more consistent to work his way up through the point standings here.
Ian Simon in P2 as it stands, and within a second of Matt Dialosa, but this is a story we've seen before. Remember last week, Dialosa was the leader about halfway through the race at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, and very, very tricky turn 1 over there that Dialosa got himself tripped up on and ended up wrecking into the barriers, and it cost him a shot at the win.
It certainly did. So Dialosa needs to try to find that rhythm, be smooth, consistent, no mistakes whatsoever. Otherwise, we could have ourselves our first 2-time winner of the season, Ian Simmons, taking home a checkered flag, because he is keeping them honest, as both of them ran almost identical lap times last time around here at Barber.
They were pretty close. It was 3/1000ths of a second between your front 2 cars, and your leaders, those front 3, when you include Chris Soborowski, are the only 3 that have managed to come down into the 130s. Everybody else was either 131 or slower.
Great run for the top 3 right now. Of course, Chris Soborowski is sitting in 3rd in the points. So pretty much those 3 drivers that we're watching right now who are sitting 1, 2, and 3, they're currently sitting 3, 4, as well as 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. So these are some of the heavy hitters that we will be watching all season long.
David Purdy riding along in the 13th spot and pretty much right there. Oh, trouble though for Jim Hemming.
Yes, indeed. And David Purdy, both of them get looped around. Have to see what happened. Looks like Jim got off course, lost control of his race car. Same thing with Purdy, almost an identical spot. And both of them hit the inside tire barriers. And I think it's safe to say their cars are going to be a little bit more difficult to handle here tonight.
Felt like a bit of monkey see, monkey do there as they both clipped the grass. Meanwhile, John Crook has had speed. He's one that I think is very intriguing. He's looked faster than Justin Moreno the last few laps, but just hasn't had the opportunity to get around Moreno's Team Haggerty Porsche Cayman. And we know that Crook had the run on that opening lap or 2 over in the 7-8 complex at the far end of the circuit and had to check up because Moreno checked up to make sure he didn't run into the back of Ken Tubman. So now that those front 3, 4 a little bit more spaced out, I wonder if that should give Crook the room to make a move on Moreno if he can draw up to that number 8 car.
Well, he's going to try to get a good run out of that small little kink right there. Down the back straightaway they'll go before they hit the turn 10 and 11 complex right now, and they hit the braking zone. It looks like Crook missed the first apex a little bit, but then hits it on the second one as they go up the hill and then just back down to the bottom of the racetrack to complete the rest of this lap.
Be very interesting to see how Crook tackles these curves. It's same story though for Moreno. If anything, Moreno gained a little bit on the first set of curves on the back straightaway, and now into the second, which are a little bit wider in apex. You do have to treat them more like corners. It looks like it was about dead even through there. We'll keep an eye on lap times as we work our way through this race, but it seems like they are relatively close between the two drivers, Moreno and Crook.
They certainly are. They're keeping very consistent lap times. Moreno was about 0.6 slower this time around compared to John Crook as they come out towards that hairpin up ahead down this small straightaway here. As they also are keeping up with Ken Tubman as well in that 27.
John Crook out of the Potomac region, which covers the greater Washington, D.C. area, and Justin Moreno technically out of the western Michigan region of the PCA, which covers basically all the major cities not named Detroit or Lansing in the Wolverine State. Grand Rapids, Kalamazoo, Traverse City, among some of the ones in that region of the PCA. But Justin Moreno actually originally from Miami, Florida, and is a newcomer to PCA sim racing. Hasn't been doing it much before the pandemic, but got into it during the pandemic, like a lot of competitors in this class. The challenge class was done by Hagerty in particular, but managed to get a top 10 in his first race over the summer, and most importantly, managed to convince his wife that building a rig so that he could race was, in fact, actually a good idea. He also happens to be the vice president of marketing at Hagerty and has been responsible for putting together Team Hagerty, and has a 991.2 C2S that he runs in real life, and has owned 6 Porsches in his lifetime, of which 3 he currently has at this time, of which his favorite is his 2015 Macan S. Very quick little SUV, that machine.
Oh, most certainly it is. Had the pleasure of getting in one when we were at Daytona back in January. Beautiful Porsche to ride along in and just enjoy the ride running at Daytona International Speedway.
Special place Daytona when you get there for the Rolex 24, as we did. We look now at Jason Sherwood, who runs the 99 machine. Sherwood also having a solid run, making sure that he keeps his car in one piece. And Sherwood comes out of the Diablo region, which is the east side of San Francisco Bay, Oakland, Richmond, and Vallejo, California, which produced some famous race car driver, I think. Taylor, if you remember correctly.
I guess so. I guess he's just some 7-time champion, I've heard. I mean,
no, not
well, that's not one. Yeah, I mean, nothing, no big deal.
No, you mean the 4-time, not the 7-time.
Oh, the 4-time, yes.
Yeah, the one who drove that really bright colored car in the 90s.
Yeah.
No, that guy.
Rainbow colored?
Yeah, I think his last name's Gordon, perhaps?
I guess. I've seen him on TV a couple times.
I think I've heard him on TV a few times, too. But anywho, if you're looking for someone to root for in the Eastern Bay, which obviously, much like a lot of Northern California, pretty heavily affected by the wildfires, we send our best wishes to all the folks out in the Golden State trying to make do with the situation, and hope for the best for them as that situation progresses into the fall. But if you love the East Bay, Sherwood might be the guy to root for, because he's having a very solid run in P13. So we slide over to find J.R. Gregory, who sits in the 21st, and back to Sherwood, who's actually catching Kim Frick in the 22.
He is doing a great job right now, keeping up with that 22 of Kim Frick as they enter into turn number 1 now. And a lot of great action going on between these two drivers, both of them running consistent lap times. Actually, a little bit faster Kim Frick is in that number 22 Porsche as they come out of that long sweeping corner of turn number 2 and down the straight before they head to the hairpin. And Kim's actually pulled away a little bit.
Has indeed pulled away a little bit, but a big send there into the hairpin. And part of one of the differentiating pieces of this Series 5, you can run different setups. This is an open setup series in iRacing, and for those who are unfamiliar with what that means you can put any setup on these cars that you like, and so long as it clears inspection by iRacing's virtual officials, you can race it. Now, some drivers will have the time to put together their own setups, but for those who don't, PCA has partnered with the Virtual Racing School to provide setups to all the drivers for Series 5 if they so choose. And if you want to find out more information about them, you can visit their website at virtualracingschool.com. Frick and Sherwood. Honestly, one of the best battles, if not the best battle in the top 10, maybe save for that small battle for the race lead between Matt Dialosa and Ian Simon, which continues to be maybe about a car length's worth at best, Taylor.
Yeah, it's now actually going to be a little bit closer now as they're going down towards the turn 7, 8A, and B and C complex. You see Simmons take a look to the inside, but can't quite make it work. We have a little bit of lap traffic in front of them. That's Jim Hemick in front of them as well. Will he move out of the way? He will give them the racing line as they get around him and now head down the back straightaway here. But Simmons doing a great job keeping up with pace as they come out of that little kink and down the back straightaway they'll go. Simmons trying to hunt down Matt Dialosa to get another win here for the PCA Sim Racing Series Challenge class.
I think the most interesting thing of that back straightaway, especially with these cars, is that because you do have to smack the curves pretty hard to get a fast time, you also leave yourself open to unsettling the car significantly and getting yourself loose and in trouble if you hit those curves the wrong way and they continue to sort of revert once you cleared those curves and go down to the next part of the straightaway. You turn a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right, and just mess that up a little bit. You have to gather it and catch it up. And if you have to get off the gas at that part of the racetrack, it's going to be a much bigger time penalty than you would find, maybe say over in this part of the circuit or over down in the hairpin in turn 5, the leaders are about to try and go tackle because you have to get back on the gas. And these Cayman GT4s with their lower top speeds are much more momentum-based cars than the GTEs and the GT3s that we have raced in PCA Sim Racing prior, as Simon meshes up turn 5 and completely missed the apex, and that allows the Dialosa to stretch out the lead to maybe 6, 7, 8 car lengths.
Yeah, I think Simon was trying to diamond that corner a little bit, but it came to no avail as Dialosa did what you normally do. Hit the first apex, wash it up a little bit, and then hit the second apex in order to carry your speed out of turn number 4 down that little straightaway before you get to turn 7. So it's going to be critical for Simon to make sure he doesn't do that as he gets a little bit loose now coming out of that little small chicane.
It is now time for our midway race break, which for the Challenge Clash of PCA Sim Racing Series 5 is brought to you by our friends at Haggerty. Since 1984, Haggerty has been the worldwide leader in collector car insurance. Everything they do is geared towards enabling and enhancing the experience of automotive enthusiasts and making sure that the vehicles we all love and the lifestyles that revolve around them don't just survive, but thrive well into the future. Services include the Haggerty Drivers Club, Drive Share by Haggerty, The Shop, and much, much more to fuel car culture. Haggerty, let's drive together. Matt Dialosa, your leader, having completed 10 laps at Barber Motorsport Park in his first race of the evening. Ian Simon currently rides in P2. Chris Siborowski is holding on to P3 for the moment, but he's beginning to get some challengers in the form of Daniel Rubel, who rides 4th. And then Ken Tubman, who won last week at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, he's currently P5. Justin Moreno for Team Haggerty, their top runner in this class tonight. He's 6th at the moment. John Crook has been all over the rear bumper of the 8, but hasn't found a way around him yet. Crook is 7th. Trip Starkey rides in the 8th position. 9th is where you'll find the 42 of Ken Nielsen. And then Eisenring currently rounds out the top 10.
Sitting at 11th is going to be the 23 of Andrew Hillman, followed by Kim Frick in the number 22, sitting 12th. Jason Sherwood sits in 13th in his number 99 Porsche, with Mark Granoff in his 172 in 14th. Robert Benson sits in the 15th position with Brian Himmelman in 16th. Anchor Bergson, who's sitting inside the points right now, he's sitting right now in the 17th position with Abraham Jones in 18th. J.R. Gregory sits 19th, and Robert Rose rounds out your top 20.
Scott McSherry is the first driver in the 20s and the last driver on the lead lap. Michael Burgoyne is the first driver one lap down. He sits in 22nd. Jim Hemick holds the 23rd position out of the Chesapeake region of the PCA. 24th currently belongs to the 21 of Aaron Ambrosino. John Bradley rides in 25th at this time. 26th is where you'll find Alan Kirby. David Purdy sits in 27th. Adam Fox, 28th, and Olin Murphy, the last car currently out there in 29th. 30th belongs to Scott Rogers and Jose Rivas, those two currently off the racetrack. And that concludes our first midway race break of the evening, brought to you by Haggerty. Let's drive together. We will rejoin the battle for the race lead, which is still good, but not to say that there aren't a few other good ones. Chris Siborowski, Daniel Rubel, and Ken Tubman in a very good tussle for 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
Yeah, I've been watching that battle right now. Siborowski doing a great job of holding off Daniel Rubel, as well as last week's winner, Ken Tubman. Now, as they come out of that small chicane down the back straightaway, Ken Tubman gets a great run, but has to check up on Daniel Rubel in order to try to not run into the back bumper of his Porsche. As they now head to the turn 10 and 11 section of the course, they'll try to climb that hill, careful with trying to hit that curving, not losing control of their race car. They'll still remain single file to turns 12 and 13.
They continue to shuffle around. Simon Siborowski, Rubel, Tubman, Moreno, Crook. That top seven's now very neatly bunched, or at least 3rd through 7th round, very neatly bunched together behind Siborowski. So this group in very, very good shape, although it appears that Siborowski has lost his rear wing.
It does look like that in that 775. He's got no rear wing. I wonder what happened to his car. And that's, as you can see, if I'm looking at a different camera angle, you can see the rear windows actually flapping in the wind. So that could provide some issue. There was a car off course. It's going to be the number 021 of Michael Burgoyne in his Portland Timber Porsche.
Contact with Daniel Rubel is the answer. They got together, Rubel and Siborowski did, over in the final corner of the racetrack a few laps ago, over in turn number, we call about 14 or so. And that is why Siborowski is racing without the rear wing. Though I think this takes, rather gives us a great opportunity to illustrate the importance of mechanical grip on these cars, especially when you compare them to, say, maybe the GTE or the GT3, which are much more dependent on the downforce that rear wing provides. Even though Siborowski doesn't have a rear wing, not really much that he has to worry about as they work their way around lap traffic. And now all of a sudden, look at Justin Moreno go up into P4. Did a nice job of taking advantage of the field, catching Adam Fox in a terrible spot in one of those chicanes on the backstretch. As we'll see one car go off the pit road, Daniel Rubel will come in for service. But Siborowski doesn't have a rear wing, but is still able to maintain his position primarily because the GT4s are much more dependent on the mechanical grip in the chassis than they are the aero grip that you get at high speeds when a wing pushes the rear end of the car down.
Yes, indeed. So these cars will, if they lose their wing, they're going to be just fine. They will still be quite competitive compared to the GTEs or the GT3 Cup cars that we saw in series past. These GT4s provide a little bit more of the amateur driver's chance to come out and learn their racecraft and build upon it. I mean, that's why we see those in the Michelin Pilot Challenge as well as the SRO GT4 series. I mean, it's just incredible to see these cars and yet still see how competitive great racing that these cars can provide.
Can confirm also that Race Control has penalized Daniel Rubel for the incident with Siborowski not too long ago. So he comes down pit road. That's why we saw him duck off of pit road just a few moments ago. And he'll cede his top 5 run to the rest of the field as Siborowski maintains P3. Tonight's broadcast of PCA Sim Racing is brought to you by the Z1 Analyzer. The Z1 Analyzer application is aimed at improving the most important part of the car, you, the driver. The Z1 Analyzer provides a lap overview, driving line analysis, braking analysis, and turn analysis so you can quickly find out where you can improve your lap times and consistency. Get into the winner's circle more often with the Z1 Analyzer and Z1 Dashboard. Visit www.z1dashboard.com for more information. As always, as we see this great battle for P2, we ride on board with Justin Moreno, who will cede the position to, I believe, Ken Tubman, who just got around him, and then Tubman's going to run wide a little bit in 2 and nearly made contact with Moreno there. But Z1 Analyzer, of course, responsible for software giveaways each and every week in PCA Sim Racing. And tonight's winner will have a lot of fun
Trouble in the hairpin. Justin Moreno as well as Ken Tubman and John Crook into the gravel, and hard contact between the two drivers right there as they try to get back out on the track. More contact between the 27 of Tubman and the 61 of John Crook.
So contact there, you saw it on your screens. Meanwhile, winner of the giveaway, Gary Rice out of the Peach State region in the sport class. So congratulations to Gary, and we'll see what he can do with that package when we get racing a little bit later this evening for the sport class.
Changes everything now as a couple of different drivers have broken into the top 10, and it's going to be now Trip Starkey and Ed Ethering who are going to be moving into the top 5.
So Dialosa, Simon, Siborowski, Starkey, Eisenring, and Moreno with a lot of damage, and he just looped it over on the far end of the racetrack. That looked like it was about maybe turn 10 or so, or rather 12 it was. He was coming up to the final big loop to round out the lap, and all of a sudden, what had been a good run for Justin Moreno has gone south in the form of a lap or two. So not a great way to run through the middle of the event for the Haggerty VP of marketing, but he'll come down. Let's see if he can get that car serviced. Just Ian Simon continues to lead, and Matt Dialosa gets in trouble over in the hairpin in turn 5.
Unfortunate for Matt Dialosa once again having more troubles. This is going to be critical for him as he needs to try to get a better run to put together for him in order to try to take home the checkered flag.
And it was just him trying to be aggressive to get around lap traffic. It was Brian Himmelman, so that's now 2 weeks in a row that Dialosa's had incidents either on his own or with another driver that effectively have taken him out of contention for the race win. Ian Simon just slipped right on past over in turn 5. So Simon now to the point. Dialosa now 12 seconds back in P2, and Seborowski has a pretty strong hold on P3 ahead of Eisenring and Starkey.
But we can take a look at that battle for 4th right quick between Starkey and Eisenring. Those two are still in a good battle as they come up the hill through turns 11 and 12, heading into turns, or actually 10 and 11, heading into turns 12 and 13 and 14. Those two are within about a second of each other. So, and with 3 laps to go or 5 minutes left to go on the clock, this could be a good battle to watch here as the laps continue to wind down here.
Ed Eisenring, part of the Pacific Northwest region of the PCA. We're featuring him to take a look at his number 929 Cayman. But for those unfamiliar, the Pacific Northwest region covers a lot of the area surrounding Elliott Bay and a lot of the major metropolitan areas of Washington State, Seattle, Tacoma, and Olympia, all part of that region of the PCA. Ed originally hails from The Hague over in the Netherlands and is another one of the pandemic got into this as soon as the pandemic started, and made a good point that he was very proud of not finishing last in the opening 2 races of PCA Sim Racing. Enjoyed his big time win over the summer when PCA Sim Racing took the 911 Cup car to Zandvoort, the national track of the Netherlands, and where Ed got his first start in racing back in the 1980s, soon to be home to a Formula One Grand Prix as well. Originally was scheduled to host the first Dutch Grand Prix in some time in May of this year before the pandemic shuffled the schedule around significantly. Loves the 911 GT3 Cup car more than anything else, and is very much the game plan and the mindset of trying to grow and find ways to make new mistakes, because if you make new mistakes, you're at least learning something, which I think in and of itself is a valid point, Taylor.
It is. I mean, trial and error is probably one of the best things you can do to help learn and grow to be a better race car driver or better in anything that you try to accomplish.
Anchor Birdsong here in a good battle with Robert Rose and Abe Jones. This is 16th, 17th, 18th, all right in front of your race leader, Ian Simon. So this could get very interesting when we get maybe a half a lap to a full lap down the road, and Simon's got to find a way to pick off all of these trio of drivers. But I would imagine there's enough room here to where that might not be too terribly difficult unless Simon finds a way to catch them here on the back straightaway in these very quick left right-hand sweepers. They're more sweepers than they are chicanes. They're not necessarily traditional chicanes in the you have to get on the brakes and stop sense. Looks like Simon is going to cut through the back here and get around believe that was Abe Jones that he just cleared. And so Simon now going to try and hunt down Robert Rose and clear that number 9 machine to give himself a little bit more ground.
He certainly has gained a ton of ground on the rest of his field right now. Currently holds about a 9.5-second lead over Matt Dialosa, and pretty much just has to run 2 more laps, clean laps, and make his way through lap traffic, which everyone's being very generous of giving the leaders plenty of race room in order to work their way around.
So Simon's got room, and he also has time on his side. 2 minutes and 22 seconds left. So depending on when he comes across the line, I think it's almost certain we are looking at 2 to go as it stands. He'll come across the line one more time and get the white flag next time by. And Simon will continue to gain points and gain ground on Dialosa. That, to me, I think, is the biggest story coming out of tonight's challenge race, where Dialosa had another lead in his hands, and another incident takes the 90 out of contention for the race win.
It certainly is. So a lot of things are going on right now as they're trying to come to the close of this race. We're still having to watch this battle for 15th to 16th, but we also got that battle for the final step of the podium still. But a lot is still going on in just short amount of time.
Severowski's managed to maintain his place over Eisenring, who sits in the 4th position. Eisenring actually closer to Trip Starkey, trying to hold off that 20 car. And then some good stuff a little bit further back. Kim Frick and Jason Sherwood, we've talked about on multiple occasions. They have a pretty solid battle. And then the 17, 18, 19th group that we talked about between Robert Rhodes, Anker Bergsong, and Justin Moreno. That trio all in the mix trying to fight for positions at the end of tonight's race, as Ian Simon will come out of the final corner and take the white flag in our first race of the evening.
What a dominant performance here tonight. He was able to capitalize on the mistakes of the 90 of Matt Dialosa, and if he's able to complete one more clean lap, he will now be a 2-time winner of the PCA Sim Racing Series Challenge class, as he has won the first round of the season at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca.
And also of note, we do have a few PCA members from Alabama in tonight's race, but so far as folks in this particular class to go, Ian Simon, by virtue of his membership in the Mardi Gras region, is as close as it gets to being the home driver for this race. So I suggest that in that sense maybe fitting that Ian Simon is half a lap away from victory tonight. He just has to execute, make sure he doesn't make any mistakes, and even if he does, he's got a 6.5-second buffer to work with on Dialosa, so time there if he needs it.
Yep, his home track advantage, pretty much, as he is the only closest driver here on the circuit in the challenge class, and doing a great job. Has shown a lot of skill, a lot of potential for this, and can only say I look forward to seeing what Ian Simmons can do for the remainder of this season.
We'll make sure we highlight some of the Alabama members of the PCA tonight. First time PCA Sim Racing has ever been to Barber Motorsports Park, and the first ever winner in PCA Sim Racing competition in an official series is going to be the 87 of Ian Simon, who goes 2 for 3 in the first 3 races of the season and wins tonight's PCA Challenge Class race presented by Haggerty. Let's drive together. Simon, your first 2-time winner in the challenge class in Series 5.
Great job indeed for Ian Simon, as he is going to take home the celebration and also increase his point lead a little bit right there with that second win of the season.
A big win there for Simon. That's a big feather in his cap, and another march stolen on Matt Dialosa in their quest for the crown. You do have the ability to drop your lowest finish of the season, but certainly not something you want to have to pull out of the bag this early, as the rest of the field continues to finish off their races. Looks like we've got Ken Tubman working his way around and coming through some of the last few corners. Also the same for Granoff and Robert Benson, some of these final drivers who are going to complete their races and bring a close to the first race of the evening.
At the field right now, a couple of big movers working their way up through the field. A couple of them is Jason Sherwood along with Kim Frick. They started 20th and 29th. They come home with a top 15 finish, finishing in 11th and 12th. So a great drive for several different drivers here tonight.
Really, really good work. We'll go through the full field rundown in just a moment, waiting for some of the final drivers in this race to finish off their event and wrap up their evening as Nielsen and Tubman still in a good fight for 7th. This is not over just yet as they come through the second switchback section on the back straightaway.
Let's keep an eye on this as they come down here for the final time. Ooh, we see the 42 get a little bit loose. Ken Nielsen trying to recover, but still holding strong over Ken Tubman as they come up. Looks like they're actually heading down pit road.
Heading down pit road and done and dusted and all wrapped, I suppose. So that is it in that case. And we can tell you now that Ian Simon is your winner for the second time in the challenge class in Series 5. Matt Dialosa comes home in P2. Chris Severowski finished in the 3rd position. 4th went to Ed Eisenring. Trip Starkey finished in P5. P6 went to John Crook. Ken Nielsen finished in the 7th position. 8th went to Ken Tubman. Andrew Hillman was in 9th, and 10th was Daniel Rubel.
Kim Frick will come home in 11th, followed by Jason Sherwood in 12th. Mark Granoff will come home 13th, followed by Robert Benson 14th. 15th, the first car 1 lap down will be Abraham Jones, followed by Robert Rose 16th. 17th will go to Anchor Bergson, followed by the 18th of Scott McSherry. 19th will go to Justin Moreno, followed by J.R. Gregory, rounding out your top 20.
Aaron Ambrosino was 21st. 22nd went to Alan Kirby. David Purdy was 23rd, and 24th went to John Bradley. Brian Himmelman was the 25th car to finish tonight's first race of the evening. 26th was Adam Fox. Michael Burgoyne came home in 27th. Finishing 28th was Jim Hemmick. It was Olin Murphy, Scott Rogers, and Jose Rivas who rounded out the 31-car field for the PCA Challenge class presented by Haggerty, our first race of the night for round 3 of Series 5 of the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series from Barber Motorsport Park. We are now joined in the booth by Ian Simon. And Ian, I think we just have to take it back to the very pivotal point over in the hairpin at turn 5, halfway through this race. What did you see out of your windshield with Dialosa in the lap car, and how did you progress through that and sneak your way around?
I thought I heard the lap car, maybe maybe someone else say pass left. So I guess Matt went for it. It did look a little tight. I thought he was going to pull it off, and then at that point it was just, try to keep it on the road and take it home.
You take it home, and then it's just clear, calm, cool, collected execution for the second half of this race. We mentioned just a moment ago that, yes, technically speaking, this isn't necessarily home, but so far as the PCA Sim Racing calendar goes, we don't get closer to your home than the Mardi Gras region of the PCA, then here at Barber. So quasi-home track cooking, I suppose, playing in your favor tonight?
We could say that. It's definitely a track that I actually have some real-world experience on, and it's a blast to drive. So I'm sure that helped a little bit.
How much did that experience translate into tonight's race, and what bits have you gained from running Barber in real life that you were able to apply here that you wouldn't necessarily think you'd learn if you hadn't run the track in real life before?
I think you just pick up a groove a little quicker. Knowing the track and actually having been there, I think it's just a little easier to pick up your turn-in points and break-in points. Granted, this isn't exactly what I actually raced, but it pretty similar, at least in the feel.
No, there are a lot of people that you need to thank for getting your second win in 3 races. So who do you need to send the thank yous and the shout-outs to?
I'm going to thank my Q-Cup boys this time. We've been doing a lot of practicing. I had one of them spotting for me during the race, and it really helped out.
And finally, before we let you go, 2 wins in 3 races, and you get another one up on Dialosa and Soborowski and Ken Tubman, who are all there with you in the points battle. So to really get a leg up on everybody else tonight, how big is that for you, and how do you carry that momentum into next week at Road Atlanta?
Well, I think it's going to help a lot after my mishap last week. So, yeah, we'll go into Road Atlanta, another track that I actually have some real-world experience on, and hopefully that helps me there, too.
Ian, congratulations from all of us at Podium Esports and the Porsche Club of America. Thanks, as always, for the time to speak with us. We look forward to seeing you next Friday night.
Yep, thanks, guys.
Ian Simon, your race winner for the first event of the evening, which, of course, is brought to you by Haggerty. Since 1984, Haggerty has been the worldwide leader in collector car insurance. Everything they do is geared toward enabling and enhancing the experience of automotive enthusiasts, and making sure that the vehicles we all love and the lifestyles that revolve around them don't just survive but thrive well into the future. Services include the Haggerty Drivers Club, Drive Share by Haggerty, the shop, and much, much more to fuel car culture. Haggerty, let's drive together. It is that time to flip over if you are on YouTube, so go ahead and pull out a full screen if you are in full screen mode, and click the bottom, down on the bottom left, that blue circle that has the PCA Sim Racing logo in it. Click there, take yourself back to the main channel, and pick out the PCA Sport video. That is where you're going to find us next. If you're anywhere else, stay right where you are. We're not going anywhere. We'll take a quick break to switch over and get you to the second race of the evening from Barber Motorsports Park, where here in PCA Sim Racing, yes, the cars aren't real, but the racing is indeed. We'll be back with our second race of the evening after a brief break. You're watching coverage of PCA Sim Racing presented by Podium Esports from Barber Motorsports Park.